a heart attack on stage, a daughter who can't stand up without a neck brace, a son-in-law who left his wife and 3 kids for the empire, and the son nobody thought would preach, who just stepped up on the 30th anniversary. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the table. Now listen, we've been covering Daystar and all of that, and we're going to keep covering it. But something happened on July 5th, 2026 at the Potter's House in Dallas that I absolutely cannot ignore. Something shifted at that church. And I know y'all been seeing the videos, seeing the commentary, seeing people divided. So today I'm going to break it all down for you. Not just what happened Sunday, but all of it. What's really going on over there? Why it's so confusing? Who the real players are? And what I actually think about what happened when Dexter Jakes walked up to that pulpit for the first time. Let's get into it, y'all. Let's go. First, let me give you the context because you cannot understand what's happening at the Potter's House right now without understanding what happened in November 2024. Bishop T.D. Jakes, one of the most famous preachers in the world, a man who has written over 30 books, been on the cover of Time magazine, preached for American presidents, had a massive heart attack on stage while delivering a sermon. On stage. His doctors told him later if he had arrived 5 minutes later, he would have died.
I cannot afford, especially after November, to risk something happening to me and you be sheep without a shepherd.
Y'all, that is the most honest thing I have heard come out of a megachurch in a long time. He said it plainly. I almost died and I realized I don't have this thing set up. So in April 2025, after recovering, he officially announced he was stepping back as senior pastor of the Potter's House. He named his daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts and her husband Touré Roberts as his successors. And y'all, that announcement sounded good in the press release, but in practice, it has been messy. And that is why people are sitting on Facebook asking, what in the world is going on over there? And I want to address the first question people keep asking because I've seen it everywhere. Why did T.D. Jakes wait so long to plan a succession? This man is a businessman. He's a strategist. He had the business acumen to launch multimedia platforms before most pastors knew what that word meant. So how did he get to this point with no plan? And y'all, I actually have compassion for this part of the story, even while being honest about it. Because Bishop Jakes, in a lot of ways, was one of the first black preachers to ride the wave of the internet era. Email, social media, digital media, cable television, cassettes to CDs to streaming, all of it happened at the same time his ministry was exploding. He was on the cover of Time magazine with the caption, "Is this the next Billy Graham?" And that wasn't black folks saying that. That was white America watching this man and being stunned. He launched the Woman Thou Art Loosed conference, pulling hundreds of thousands of women under one roof. He had crossover appeal at a level the black church had never seen. And when you're on that kind of rocket ship, you may not be thinking about what happens when you fall off. We see this with every kind of artist, every kind of leader. Aretha Franklin, the greatest voice in American music, didn't even have a will when she died. Jerry Seinfeld walked away from his show at its absolute peak because he said he felt it in himself it was time. Oprah ended hers at #1 after 25 years because she wanted to have a life. Neither of them were preachers, but the wisdom is the same. You have to decide when to stop before the stopping decides for you. Bishop Jakes didn't do that. And now we're watching him figure it out while his health is fragile and his family is complicated and the whole church world is watching. Now let's talk about Sarah, because a lot of people have been asking, why does this girl keep showing up to church when she had spinal surgery on June 17th and showed up on July 5th with her neck brace still on? And y'all, the answer isn't supernatural. The answer is practical, and it's kind of heartbreaking. Here's the reality. The Potter's House, for better or for worse, over 30 years has built its entire identity around one thing: the Jakes brand. First, it was Bishop Jakes himself. Now it's supposed to be Sarah. And when your ministry is built on a personality, when the people come specifically for that person, you can't just put somebody else up there on Sunday morning. The people will leave. And according to multiple sources, the church is already navigating serious financial pressure from everything that goes into running a building of that size. So Sarah is not there because she's healed enough. She's there because if she's not there, the people aren't coming. And if the people aren't coming, the lights don't stay on. And look, I'm going to be fair to Sarah here, even while being honest. She is charismatic. She can work a crowd. She has her own audience, particularly women through her Woman Evolve movement. She's built a real platform. But here's where I'll say what a lot of people say quietly. Charisma and preaching gift are not the same thing. Hyping a crowd and teaching the word are not the same thing. If you can only minister to people who don't know the difference between the brass and the gold, that's a problem. And the more the congregation gets fed cotton candy every Sunday, the harder it's going to be to ever transition them to meat. Now, y'all, this is the part that has had people laughing and shaking their heads at the same time. Let me tell you about Touré Roberts, because his role in this Potter's House story is something I feel like needs to be talked about with real honesty. The timeline that people need to understand. Touré Roberts was born in 1972 in Oakland, California. He founded a church called One Church International in Los Angeles, later renamed One, a Potter's House church after merging with Jakes Network. He was previously married to Touré Roberts, a children's book author. They had 3 children together. In 2014, Touré filed for divorce in the Van Nuys courthouse. Court documents filed by Lori reportedly described serious financial strain. She alleged he told her he would no longer support her or the children financially, and that the rent on the family home was over $8,000 a month. She reportedly had to go to the courthouse to stop an eviction. Within months of the divorce filing, Touré was publicly engaged to Sarah Jakes Roberts, daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes, and they married in November 2014. He has now been officially appointed alongside Sarah as co-senior pastor of the Potter's House, one of the largest and most influential megachurches in America. Y'all, I'm going to let the sequence speak for itself. This man said publicly God told him his marriage was over. Okay, people get divorced. We understand that. Marriages end. But when the same year you file the divorce papers is the same year you end up engaged to the daughter of the man who runs the empire you'd been trying to get access to, and when your ex-wife reportedly had to go to a courthouse to keep her family from being evicted, that sequence of events tells a story. And the story it tells is not, God told me. The story it tells is, I saw an opportunity. Because here's what nobody at Touré's church could have predicted. The one person standing between him and leading the Potter's House was Sarah's daddy. And as long as Bishop Jakes was healthy, that was fine. But once the heart attack happened in November 2024 and Sarah had her spinal accident, suddenly the whole dynamic shifted. And the person nobody counted on, nobody, was the one Jakes son who had been running from this his whole life. The youngest son, Dexter. Now let's talk about what actually happened on July 5th, 2026. the 30th anniversary of the Potter's House. And y'all, this is where it gets genuinely moving, even if I have questions about what comes next.
I'm standing in your prayers today. I'm not standing on your name.
Dexter Thomas Jakes preaching Unfinished Glory at the Potter's House, July 5th, 2026. His first ever sermon. He's 32 years old. He was 2 when his father founded this church. He has spent his entire adult life running from this pulpit, twice enrolled in ministry school, and twice walked away. He's built a life in music, filmmaking, marketing. By every account from people close to that family, there was essentially nothing that was going to get Dexter Jakes into a pulpit. And then his sister breaks her neck on a trampoline. His daddy has a heart attack on stage, and his wife says to him, "You should preach the 30th." And then he's sitting at breakfast, and Sarah says the exact same thing, and something clicked. He got up there and preached Unfinished Glory. He talked about being unfinished clay. He talked about running from his calling for 32 years. He talked about he and his wife losing a baby after struggling to conceive. He was raw. He was personal. He was not performing. And when he said, "I'm not standing on your name, I'm standing on your prayers," that line hit. Because he was saying something most Nepo baby preachers never actually say. He was saying, "I'm not here because of my last name. I'm here because I finally couldn't run anymore." Now, do I think Dexter has the gift? Honestly, I think the jury is genuinely still out. Showing up for the first time takes enormous courage. Speaking to a congregation that knows your family is not an easy thing. He did it well. But doing something well and having a preaching gift are different things. The question isn't whether he can stand up there, it's whether when he teaches the word, something supernatural happens that transforms lives. And that we cannot know from one sermon. Okay, so let me bring all of this together now, because here's what I think is really going on at the Potter's House when you take all of it in at once. And look, here's what I want y'all to hear. This is not just a Potter's House story. This is the story of what happens to any ministry, any business, any institution when it's built on a personality instead of a principle. When the brand becomes more important than the bread of life. When the face on the billboard matters more than the fruit of the Spirit. The Potter's House is just playing this story out on a very large, very visible stage. But the pattern? We've seen it before. We'll see it again. Let me close in scripture because there's actually something the word says directly into this situation that I think is worth sitting with. Ecclesiastes 1:9. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Proverbs 20:21. An inheritance claimed too soon will not be blessed at the end. An inheritance claimed too soon will not be blessed at the end. I'm going to let you sit with that one and apply it however the Spirit leads you. But I will say this. There is a difference between an inheritance that is claimed by scheming and positioning and an inheritance that is surrendered to by someone who genuinely didn't want it, who ran from it for decades, who only stepped into it when everything around him collapsed and there was nowhere left to run. One of those paths looks like Touré. The other one looks like Dexter. And scripture is very, very clear which one tends to carry the blessing. So here's where I land. The Potter's House is at a crossroads that nobody can fully see the end of yet. Bishop Jakes is recovering from a heart attack and stepping back. Sarah is showing up with a neck brace because she has to. Touré is there because of a plan that mostly worked, but with a wild card nobody counted on. And Dexter is a 32-year-old man who just stood up at his father's 30th anniversary and said, "Use me however you want," after 3 decades of running away from that exact sentence. I don't know what God is doing over there. I don't know what Dexter's gift is at its full development. I don't know if this church can be what it once was. But I do know this. When someone gets up in front of thousands of people on the biggest day of their family's legacy and says, "I'm not standing on your name, I'm standing on your prayers," that sentence is worth something. That's not a platform grab. That's a surrender. And God tends to do things with surrenders that he can't do with grabs. Until next time, stay rooted, stay real, stay in the Word, and know the difference between someone who's grabbing an inheritance and someone who's finally accepting a calling. God bless y'all. Peace.